The Galactic Concord was a tapestry of species, each thread woven tightly through treaties, power balances, and old scars. For centuries, the system worked, barely. Then humans arrived. They didn't bark like the Garnak, didn't posture like the Drakari, nor did they sway through diplomacy like the Thalion. They listened, quiet, unsettling, and they remembered everything. Ambassador Ryland had been Earth's face in the Concord for 4 years. Nobody had ever seen him raise his voice. He spoke with a tone that disarmed generals and kings alike. He always came with only 2 human guards, silent, still, observing. Some called it arrogance. Others called it confidence. The Drakari called it weakness. Velkin had seen too many human interactions to remain silent. As a veteran of 3 border wars, he believed in directness, in conquest, in dominance. His people's bloodline was built on blade and flame. The idea that this soft-skinned creature sat beside generals and dictated peace, it was disgraceful. Velkin had watched Ryland diffuse a standoff between 2 warring systems with nothing but a word. He hated that. Hated how one man could make empires stop with a gesture. The opportunity came during the summit of Archet Prime, a neutral station heavily patrolled. But Velkin's rank gave him access. He slipped in with a ceremonial delegation, and nobody noticed the forged credentials. His blade, a custom plasma edge the size of a finger, lay dormant under his armor, invisible to scanners. It had 1 charge, 1 strike. He only needed 1. The reception was bland. Drinks, hollow words, empty promises. Ryland stood near a central pillar, discussing trade rights with a Thalion noble. He was unguarded for a heartbeat. That was enough. Velkin moved, silent, graceful. He reached the Diplomat in under 5 seconds. The blade hissed to life, glowing. He swung. He missed. It wasn't that Ryland moved. It was that the man beside him, the one in the suit, intercepted the blade mid-air with 2 fingers. The plasma edge should have melted through bone. Instead, it sparked, failed, and died. Velkin blinked. In that pause, he was disarmed, dropped to the floor, and restrained. No pain, no shouting, just a quiet, practiced efficiency. Ryland stared down at him, eyes steady. No fear, no hatred. "You've made your choice," he said simply, then turned to resume his conversation as Velkin was dragged away. He expected interrogation, torture, vengeance. Instead, they locked him in a containment field on the station, monitored by a neutral AI. No humans came. No threats were made. The Drakari response was typical. Their ambassador expressed profound regret for the attack, called Velkin a rogue actor. Behind closed doors, though, state broadcasts painted Velkin as a hero of the people. His face was everywhere. On Drakaros, his homeworld, massive rallies broke out. Songs were written. Monuments started construction. They claimed the attack had exposed the cowardice of Earth. Humans had done nothing. They jeered. "They fear us," they roared. The human silence is proof. But Velkin knew better. The man with the blade had been trained. His counter had been precise. That wasn't fear. That was control. And control meant danger. Still, the hours ticked by. The station remained calm. The Concord continued its diplomatic dance. Some species criticized humans for weakness. Others waited in apprehension. 2 hours passed. Velkin sat in his containment cell, staring at the wall. He wondered what was taking them so long. He had begun to doubt they would do anything at all. Maybe humanity truly was toothless. At exactly 2 hours and 3 minutes after the attempted assassination, all lights in the station dimmed. The stars flickered as if winking out. A low tremor pulsed through the station floor. Velkin's capture made brief waves in the news networks of the Galactic Concord. The headlines were cautious: attempt on human diplomat foiled, Drakari soldier detained in neutral zone. But the real storm was quieter, humming beneath official channels, threading through encrypted diplomatic lines and hushed military chatter. The question wasn't why Velkin had done it. Everyone understood the Drakari mindset. The real question was, what would humanity do now? 2 hours passed, and nothing happened. The Human Directorate released no statement. Ambassador Ryland continued his diplomatic meetings on Archet Prime as if nothing had occurred. The human delegation did not leave the summit, did not raise a protest, did not even increase their security. That silence unnerved the council chambers more than any retaliation would have. Other species waited. Some mocked, some feared, but all watched. Velkin sat alone in his containment unit, eyes fixed forward. The AI monitoring system provided no conversation, no entertainment, not even a reaction to his presence. It was silence layered over more silence. He expected trial, interrogation, demands for answers. Nothing came. He was being ignored. On Drakaros, things were different. Velkin's face appeared on every view screen. The government praised his bravery, painting him as the embodiment of Drakari pride. Songs were written within hours. A planned monument in the capital's Central Plaza received funding overnight. State-sponsored broadcasters played loops of the attack with proud narration. One soldier dared to act where others bent the knee. His name was trending across Drakari space. Among the elite, the celebration was more restrained but still present. Velkin's superiors in the military publicly denounced the act, calling it unsanctioned and reckless. Privately, they exchanged congratulations. Humanity had been humiliated, they said, and not by warships or fleets, but by one man and one blade. No reply meant weakness. Meanwhile, patterns began to shift in human space. At first, it was subtle. Trading routes that were once active with human merchant vessels went dark. The communication relays connecting Seoul to its neighboring systems began to experience quiet outages. Human embassies in outer sectors ceased regular check-ins. Their diplomats, once omnipresent, vanished behind layers of unavailable schedules. The Concord's analysts noticed, but with no official word, no one could say what it meant. Then came the blockade, a remote system on the fringe of Drakari-controlled space. Uninhabited, long deemed unimportant, reported an unusual presence. A formation of vessels, unmarked but unmistakably human, had appeared. They did not communicate. They did not threaten. They simply existed there, waiting. More fleets began to vanish from known positions, slipping off radars and satellite scans. No declarations. No provocations. The Drakari High Command laughed at the reports. Human ghosts, they said. Empty ships and cowardly gestures. But others in the Concord were not so confident. The Thalion began recalling their merchant fleets. The Sarai Confederacy sent encrypted envoys to Earth asking, delicately, if they were preparing for war. They received no answer. The response was always the same, silence. In the council chamber, Ambassador Ryland finally stood after 2 days of unbroken silence. Representatives leaned forward in their seats. The room quieted. He merely stated, Earth acknowledges the attack. We have nothing further to say at this time. He sat back down. That was it. One sentence. The effect was seismic. No condemnation. No request for justice. No threats. Humanity had spoken without speaking. The absence of response was louder than war drums. It forced every faction to re-examine what they truly knew about Earth. For years, humanity had projected calm, diplomacy, adaptability. But no one had seen them pressure like this. No one had seen them hurt. And certainly, no one had seen them angry. Velkin's name became both anthem and warning. Children on Drakaros chanted it. Diplomats whispered it. Security councils debated what, if anything, would follow. Was the silence victory, or the breath before something far worse? For Velkin, still confined on Archet Prime, it began to feel like something deeper had been set into motion. He noticed small things. The station's sensors were subtly reoriented toward deep space. Staff walked faster. Human guards no longer carried visible weapons, but something in their eyes had changed. The silence hadn't ended. It had deepened, and with each passing moment, it pressed heavier across the stars, a weight nobody knew how to lift. At exactly the 2-hour mark and 17th minute, all communication from Drakaros ceased. What began as a flicker in interstellar traffic control quickly escalated to a system-wide blackout. Long-range probes stationed near Drakari territory went blind. Trade beacons failed. Astrogation updates from the sector turned to static. Concorde satellites triangulated the signal loss. all pointed to Drakaros, gone dark in the middle of peak broadcast cycles. The Concorde issued a Level 2 alert. A science vessel was redirected to investigate, its crew on high caution. Their last transmission was only 3 words. There's nothing here. Then silence. News spread fast. Across the galaxy, factions scrambled for answers. Speculation exploded. Some suggested internal rebellion, others a catastrophic planetary failure. No one wanted to speak the obvious. No one dared to suggest that Earth had moved, until the footage leaked. It came from a private courier drone hundreds of thousands of kilometers from the Drakaros system. The video showed a fragment of time. 7 seconds of warped starlight, violent pulses of artificial gravity. In the center, a silhouette of vessels unlike anything in Concorde databases. No markings, no heat signatures, just angular shadows shifting with impossible silence. Then came the frame that changed everything. Drakaros, whole, framed against its twin suns. In the next frame, a void. The planet was gone, not destroyed, erased. No explosion, no debris, just absence. The footage spread faster than any official report could catch it. By the time the Concorde assembled an emergency session, panic had already spread through a dozen systems. Civilian ships rerouted. Fleets recalled. On Drakari colony worlds, chaos reigned. The homeworld was silent. No warnings. No survivors. The Central Military AI, an entity that had operated without fail for 2 centuries, was offline. All channels, all fail-safes, all backups dead. Then came a message, delivered simultaneously to every major node in the Concorde, encoded with Earth's diplomatic cipher. The voice was Ryland's. Calm, clear, unshaken. 2 hours passed. No apology. No regret. We offered peace, it was spat on. Let this be understood. Humanity does not initiate war, but we do not hesitate to end it. Drakaros is no more. This is not a threat. It is a conclusion. Proceed wisely. There was no demand, no ultimatum, only closure. The message looped once. Then it self-deleted. Within the hour, over 60 Concorde species issued public statements condemning the attack on the human diplomat. The Thalion offered formal alliance. The Garnak, once critical of Earth's admission to the Concorde, demanded emergency talks with the Human Directorate. Trade embargoes against Sol were lifted overnight. Systems that had denied Earth access now petitioned for cooperative defense pacts. Velkin remained in custody, unaware until the station's personnel evacuated. Only when the AI informed him that no diplomatic channels could verify Drakaros's current planetary status did he begin to understand. It wasn't exile. It wasn't imprisonment. It was abandonment. His world was gone. He screamed, pounded the walls, demanded to speak to someone, anyone. The AI simply informed him there was no one to connect him to. No codes, no signals, no registry. The planet did not exist in current star maps. On neutral worlds, historians scrambled to preserve records of Drakaros before they were overwritten. Librarians flagged inconsistencies, records that auto-deleted. Inquiries to Earth were returned with one-line responses, irrelevant archival subject. Entire cultures now erased from official databases, replaced with blank identifiers and corrupt data tags. The Drakari species, once feared and loud, now had no home. Their colonies were thrown into disarray, no leadership, no direction. Without Drakaros, they were a fractured remnant, and worse, a cautionary tale. Speculation erupted in military circles. How did Earth do it? There were no superweapons registered, no mass movement of ships, no energy signature of a planetary strike. Theories ranged from quantum destabilization to artificial singularity collapse, but none had proof. The reality was simple. Earth had removed a world without firing a known weapon, without deploying a known fleet, and without leaving evidence. The message wasn't in what was done, it was in how easily it was done. That night, across the stars, lights dimmed early. Emergency drills were run. Treaties were reviewed. The Concorde had not faced war. They had witnessed judgment. In the days that followed, The galaxy was quieter than it had been in generations. Trade resumed at a crawl. Council sessions went half-filled. Even the loudest warhawks among the Garnak and Vosht fell mute. No one wanted to test what humanity had shown. Drakaros was no longer mentioned in formal reports. When queried, official systems simply returned, no match found. The surviving Drakari colonies fragmented overnight. Without a homeworld, their centralized governance collapsed. Military chains of command crumbled. Attempts to rally forces under a new banner failed. Their fleet scattered, unsure if they were still soldiers or refugees. Vulcan's name, once broadcast with reverence, became a curse whispered in what few halls still functioned. His image was stripped from propaganda. Memorials under construction were halted and dismantled. Drakaros' fall was not mourned. It was erased, out of shame, out of fear. Vulcan, finally released from his cell by emergency command override, found himself unwanted by both sides. The neutral authorities handed him to the nearest Drakari outpost. The ship that picked him up didn't speak to him. Its crew wore no insignia. They didn't ask questions. They didn't look at him. By the time they reached the nearest colony, word had spread. He was the reason their home was gone. Entire families vanished. Legacies lost in an instant. He was no longer a hero. He was a ghost dragging a tomb behind him. In the Galactic Council, new security measures were introduced, not to protect against humanity, but to appease them. Diplomatic protocol was rewritten. Human envoys were now considered priority-level entities, immune to detainment, unrestricted in movement. The seat reserved for Earth was moved to the inner circle, a position previously held only by the founding civilizations. No objections were raised. Ambassador Ryland returned 3 days after the event. His presence required no announcement. The moment he stepped into the chamber, all conversation stopped. He took his seat and waited. When the floor was offered, he declined it. He spoke only once, hours later, in response to a proposal for new mutual defense clauses. "We have no desire to conquer," he said, "but we will never be prey." That was all. No elaboration, no rhetoric, just the quiet assertion that had now reshaped the galaxy's balance. Treaties were redrafted. Entire sectors signed non-aggression pacts with Earth, not under pressure, but out of reverence. The unspoken understanding was clear. Humanity didn't act in anger. They acted with certainty. They didn't seek domination, but they would not allow themselves to be touched without consequence. Behind closed doors, the Human Directorate offered technology exchanges. Selective, controlled. Their ships remained untracked, their colonies still isolated. But now, when a human vessel appeared, systems cleared traffic lanes voluntarily. Civilizations that once saw Earth as untested now called them apex peers. The HFY philosophy, once just a fringe notion among a few human historians, spread through alien discourse. The phrase took new meaning across species, respect earned in silence, fear invoked in restraint. The humans, it turned out, did not scream their superiority. They waited to be provoked, then responded in ways the rest of the galaxy couldn't match. Even the oldest species reevaluated humanity's origins. How had such a race, so young, developed this kind of precision? Who taught them to be this patient, this final? The archives held no clues. The mystery only deepened the awe. Ryland continued his duties. He mediated disputes. He shook hands. He smiled. But now, no one mistook his calm for softness. His presence was a warning in itself. Vulcan disappeared. Rumors claimed he died in exile. Others said he was executed by his own kind. A few whispered he joined a human colony under a new identity, seeking forgiveness no one would offer. It didn't matter. He had become part of a story retold in hushed voices across the stars. Not a tale of war, but of what happens when the quiet ones decide enough is enough. The galaxy would never forget that day, not because of what was taken, but because of how easily it was done. There was no war, no siege, no prolonged campaign, only a choice, and a message that followed. Humanity was done asking for respect. From now on, it would be enforced.